A global outbreak turns ordinary people into hyper-fast killers in seconds, and one man's desperate theory might be humanity's only shot at survival. We open at roughly 10,000 meters, where a small dog on a passenger flight won't stop barking at the rear cabin door. The flight attendant assumes it's nothing and opens it anyway, and the dog bolts in terror. Moments later, a horrifying commotion erupts from the back of the plane, waking a sleeping passenger named Jerry, a former UN investigator. When he pulls back the curtain, he finds the rear section has descended into chaos. Passengers scramble to barricade the aisle with luggage, but a bag slips loose and the noise sends the infected charging straight at the wall. It collapses almost instantly, and with the cabin overrun, Jerry sees only one option: arm a grenade mid-flight. A virtual death sentence at that altitude, but with nothing else left, he pulls the pin anyway. From there, we rewind 3 days to a traffic-choked morning in Philadelphia, where Jerry is stuck in gridlock with his wife and 2 daughters. Military helicopters roar overhead, while the radio reports a strange illness compared to rabid animal behavior. When a soldier smashes through a nearby car window and an explosion rocks the street ahead, Jerry senses something catastrophic is unfolding. A runaway truck plows through the gridlock, crushing everything in its path, and the family's car eventually gets hit too. Everyone survives, but the street has turned into a war zone, packed with infected, moving with unnatural speed and viciousness. Jerry watches one bitten man transform into one of these creatures in barely a dozen seconds, a mutation rate aggressive enough to collapse civilization on its own. The family commandeers an abandoned RVV, plows through one of the infected, and escapes the immediate carnage on the road. Jerry learns the city has effectively been destroyed, and his older daughter's asthma flares up. With no medication on hand, he rushes the family to a nearby store, splitting up to grab supplies while his younger daughter's scream pulls him back to find 2 men assaulting his wife. When one pulls a weapon, Jerry shoots him dead without hesitation. A police officer arrives moments later, but instead of intervening, simply joins in, looting, a grim sign that law and order have completely broken down. When the family steps back outside, they discover their vehicle has already been stolen. Realizing the streets are too dangerous, Jerry leads everyone toward a nearby apartment building while calling an old UN contact named Karen, arranging an extraction for the next morning, provided they can reach somewhere high enough to be spotted. Right as they reach the building's base, an infected body drops from above, and the noise stirs every creature nearby. Everyone scrambles inside and seals the door, but the infected immediately surge up the stairwell. After climbing 7 flights, the family finds a kind Mexican household willing to share their limited food and shelter for the night. The next morning, Jerry invites them along, but the father declines.
Tenemos que mover.
You have a better chance if you come with us.
You need anything else before you leave?
And Jerry doesn't push. Before leaving, he improvises a spear from a mop handle and kitchen knife, wraps a thick book around his forearm for protection, and ties the family together with rope so no one gets separated. Almost immediately after they leave, the Mexican family left behind is attacked the moment Jerry opens the rooftop access door. An infected charges him, and he dispatches it with his spear, but the noise draws more, forcing everyone into a full sprint up the remaining stairs. To buy time, Jerry hands his wife the supply bag and stays behind to hold off the pursuers. During the fight, a small amount of infected blood ends up in his mouth, and he briefly assumes the worst. Just then, a gunshot rings out, fired by the young Mexican boy, who somehow survived on his own. His wife signals for rescue with a flare, and once Jerry reaches the top with the boy in tow, he walks to the ledge 100 meters up and silently counts the seconds it takes for infection to show. Ready to jump rather than risk harming his family, the countdown passes with no transformation, but there's no time to relax, since the infected are already climbing the stairwell. Jerry gets his family and the boy aboard a rescue helicopter as it lifts off under covering fire. He's devastated to spot the same Mexican father, now infected, charging the chopper along with the others, most tumbling off the building's edge in the chaos. 2 hours later, they touch down on a naval vessel called the Argus, stationed in the Atlantic, where Karen is waiting for them. But survival aboard comes with a price. In the ship's makeshift command center, Karen lays out the grim state of the world. The president is dead.
The president is dead.
The mainland is falling apart, and the ship itself is running dangerously low on supplies. A ranking military officer cuts straight to the point. Intelligence traces the virus's origin to a U.S. base in South Korea, but contact was lost after the last transmission. A virologist happens to be aboard, and the officer wants Jerry, their most capable investigator, to escort the doctor there and track down patient zero.
Help Dr. Fossbach find whatever it is he needs.
It's made clear that refusal means his family gets put back on land, so Jerry accepts to protect them.
It's your choice, Mr. Lane. Simple.
Their first stop is the American base in South Korea, the source of the warning transmission. During the flight, the overconfident doctor spends the whole trip theorizing that nature itself holds the answer to stopping the outbreak.
Mother Nature is a serial killer.
A line that matters far more than anyone expects, especially given how abruptly his part in the story ends. The plane lands during a storm, and the moment the door opens, nearby infected surge toward the noise. The doctor, who spent his life in research rather than the field, panics, turns to flee, slips on the stairs, and accidentally discharges his own weapon, killing himself instantly. Soldiers rush out under cover of gunfire to get Jerry and the others inside. Once there, Jerry finds the location, named in the transmission, destroyed. No patient, no virus sample, just ash. Soldiers explain an infected soldier had gotten loose and killed the investigating doctors before the section was burned. Deliberately, meaning that transmission was the doctor's final warning before dying. Discouraged, Jerry is ready to leave when he notices a man locked in a cage, muttering to himself. Revealed to be a disgraced former CIA operative jailed for arms dealing. What the man reveals changes everything, claiming North Korea reacted by forcibly extracting the teeth of its entire population within a single day. A brutal but effective way to prevent the virus spreading through bites.
No teeth, no bite, no great spread.
Jerry is skeptical until the man adds something stranger. Unlike the rest of the world, treating this as a riot or epidemic, Israel sealed its borders and built a massive wall a full week before the outbreak went global.
They sealed off their entire country.
As if they already knew what was coming.
Jürgen Wurmbra.
With no better leads, Jerry and the surviving soldiers push through another night of infected and rain to reach the plane, setting course for Jerusalem, reportedly one of the only safe zones left. As the plane descends toward the city, Jerry is stunned to see it still standing, completely intact, protected by that massive surrounding wall. He's introduced to a senior Mossad officer named Jürgen, the very man the arms dealer had mentioned, who explains a long-standing intelligence doctrine.
How did Israel know? Undead. Zombies. We intercepted a communique from an Indian general.
When 9 analysts reach the same conclusion, a 10th is assigned to argue the opposite, no matter how unlikely. Jürgen was that 10th voice, the one who took the zombie threat seriously when almost no one else would. And it's precisely why Israel built its wall in time. Now survivors inside are celebrating as though the danger has passed, unaware of just how reckless that complacency really is. The infected outside begin climbing over each other in an endless swarm, forming a living mound that eventually reaches the top before anyone can react. The first infected drops over the edge, and the supposedly impenetrable wall collapses within moments as the outbreak floods the city. Jürgen orders his soldier, a woman named Segan, to get Jerry out at any cost. Amid the chaos, Jerry notices something strange. Certain people, an elderly, limping man among them, are being completely ignored by the swarming infected. There's no time to dwell on it as the group flees through narrow streets. One soldier is grabbed mid-air and detonates a grenade to save the others. Cornered in an alley, the team breaks into a nearby building where Jerry spots the same pattern again. A young boy standing untouched in the middle of a horde, ignoring him entirely. As the infected break through the door, Segan is bitten on the hand while defending the group. Without hesitation, Jerry grabs her sword and severs her hand before the infection can spread. Then times how long it takes for symptoms to appear, and thankfully, none come. As they head for a rescue helicopter, more infected drop from a nearby rooftop, crashing onto the chopper and destroying it entirely. Their original plane leaves without them too, forcing the group to commandeer a random passenger jet at gunpoint just to escape. Once airborne, Jerry tends to Segan's wound, and as she bitterly jokes about becoming a burden,
Now I'm just a liability.
the word triggers something in his mind. He connects the strange pattern he's witnessed, the man at the Korean base, the elderly man and boy in Jerusalem, all somehow ignored by the infected, alongside the doctor's earlier theory about nature's own logic. Convinced he's onto something, Jerry has the pilot redirect toward a WHO research facility in Wales, uncertain if it's even still operational, but with nothing left to lose.
There is WHO research facility nearby, but
Make it.
Hours later, just as the plane nears Wales, the same barking dog from the opening reappears, setting off the very chaos we saw at the start. A violent decompression tears infected passengers out of the fuselage. But the damaged plane ultimately crashes into the Welsh countryside. Jerry wakes injured with debris lodged in his side, but both he and Segan have survived. Together, they make their way through the woods toward the research facility, and Jerry collapses the moment they arrive. He wakes 3 days later, stitched up but restrained, and demands to contact Karen. The news is devastating. Believing him dead, the military removed his family from the ship and shipped them to a refugee camp in Canada, deciding they no longer had any use for them. Furious but focused, Jerry pushes forward, laying out his theory to the facility's remaining scientists that the virus behaves like a highly selective predator, avoiding hosts already seriously ill, meaning disease itself might be nature's built-in defense. The idea makes sense in theory, but there's no live virus sample to test it against, since every sample is trapped in a section of the facility already overrun by dozens of infected. Once again, Jerry volunteers to go in himself, joined by Segan and a doctor, all three wrapping their arms for protection and creeping through the infected undetected until a small mistake alerts the horde. Right before reaching the sample room, Jerry stays behind to draw the infected away, banging on a railing to buy his companions time while he clears a path to the vials, but finds a lone infected blocking his only way out. With no other option, he injects himself with an unknown sample and writes a farewell note to his family just in case before opening the door to test his theory in person. Remarkably, the infected sniffs him, hesitates, and turns away entirely. Determined to prove it wasn't luck, Jerry calmly buys a soda from a nearby vending machine before deliberately knocking every can onto the floor, waking every infected in the building. He then walks straight through the resulting swarm, completely unnoticed, confirming his theory works. Back at the lab, doctors administer a precautionary antibiotic, and it turns out the sample he'd chosen was harmless all along, just simple bacteria rather than anything dangerous. With working samples finally secured, Jerry and Segan leave the facility behind. 60 hours later, after everything he's endured, Jerry finally reunites with his family at a refugee camp on the edge of Canada, and the movie closes there.